Welcome, everyone. Nice to be with you all in our Tuesday evening community gathering. I'm Lindsay Bridges, Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, and you are here as part of our regular Tuesday evening greeting gathering that we normally have in person at Plaza Midwood, in our room there, and for this time, we're doing it online instead. So I'm glad that you are here and able to join us. We have some offering all weekdays and hope that you can be with us. And it's sweet to see Patrick saying hi. Um, my guess is the others of you probably know most of you. If not, if you're new, really glad that you're here too. So, so we're going to begin with about a 25-minute guided meditation sit, and then I have a sharing, and then we have a chance that we can meet together in a Zoom room afterwards if you like. So glad you're here, and we will begin. So, to begin this guided meditation, I invite you to find whatever posture is most comfortable for your body. Eyes can remain closed or open, whichever is best for you. And I'm going to ring this bell. See what it's like to simply open to listening to the sound of the bell, the sound of whatever other sounds you're hearing. Allowing them to simply reach your ears, open to a curiosity about the felt sensation of this sound. So, in that same way, there's nothing you need to do for sound to reach your ears, the sound of the bell. Opening the awareness to any other sounds, sounds in your own body, sounds in the room, sounds outside. For tonight, we're going to do a deep exploration of the quality of curiosity. See what it's like to invite that right now. Deep curiosity to the felt sensation of listening. So, as you're exploring listening, noticing the difference between getting caught up in a story about any sound or a judgment, a liking, a disliking, a wishing a sound away, wanting to hear something better, See what it's like to notice the difference between any of that. Simply feeling sound, even the sound of my voice, aware of the felt sensation, vibratory sound reaching your body and ears. What is it like to invoke curiosity around listening? Even when there might not be many sounds, still always some sounds. Curious about the interplay of whatever you are hearing. And bringing that same curiosity to the body. Again, nothing you have to do to reach for any sensations, they're already here. It's just opening the awareness. Maybe starting with wherever you have contact, chair or floor, support. Noticing your points of support for the body. What sensation like on the bottoms of the feet? If you're sitting in a chair, really feel into the contact between the bottoms of the feet and floor below. You're sitting or lying down, any other position. Again, just find those points of contact. Invite a sense of curiosity into gravity itself. We feel it through the sensation of weight. Wherever you're feeling it, can you feel the different degrees of contact? Some points with more pressure, some points with less. So bringing that felt curiosity about connection with gravity, not just to the points of contact or support, really opening the field up to explore the body in relationship to gravity, the whole of the body. We know that in fact, gravity is interacting with every cell, every atom, molecule. It's constant relationship with the whole of the earth. It's what makes our bones strong, allows our muscles to be strong. Feel it in your eyelids. If your hair is long enough, maybe your hair is in a downward direction for gravity. through interacting with gravity. For any of us, if it gets long enough, can feel that interaction. Without thinking or analyzing. What's it like to be openly curious about this connection with the earth? Gravity is a very mysterious field that's not actually well understood, but its presence can absolutely be felt and measured. In this present moment, there's this interplay between this body and the whole of the earth. Feeling into that interplay for you. Curious about any points of noticing it in the body. Nothing we do to make gravity be here. Again, much like listening, it's an opening to what is already here. And bringing that same sense of curiosity, that opening to whatever is already here, to the breath, moving in, moving out in the body. Nothing you need to do to make the breath happen. You do have some control over the breath, but it's actually quite limited. I can only forcibly make an in breath be so long. The body will take over and turn it into an out breath. I can hold an out breath only so long. The body will take over and turn it back into an in breath. There is this wired into us process of life that the body knows how to do. What is it like to get deeply curious about letting go of control of the breath, feeling into how the body breathes itself in and out? And of course, for most of us, the mind has probably wandered multiple times, even in the course of this meditation so far. Totally normal. It's what the mind does. We are gifted with these very energetic, creative minds, which, without a lot of training, jump here and there and everywhere. And then, even with a lot of training, can still jump here and there and everywhere. Maybe a little less so with time. So, even with distractions, What's it like to bring the same curiosity to the distracted mind? Notice what's going on in your mind right now, whether there is a calm or a settled, or if there's a distraction, an anxiety, a worry, or if you're just making a shopping list. In that same way, we settle back and listen to sound. Settle back and listen to, feel into the felt sense of gravity, movement of the breath. We can step back and witness the thoughts moving across our mind sky. Be really curious about the difference between being caught up in any thoughts and this witnessing possibility, mindful observation, curiosity at watching the movement, the rising, the falling of any thoughts. Be curious about the charge of a thought. Notice how some thoughts are just fleeting, drift away with barely even a notice. Other thoughts might have a strong hook or charge or connection. At any point, if that hook or charge or connection becomes too strong, and instead of witnessing, you find yourself swept away in its stream, use the breath, use sound, use gravity, use any anchor that is skillful for you to reawaken yourself to this moment and be really curious about that capacity to reawaken to the moment. Even if it's just for the smallest glimpse, really see that smallest glimpse of, oh, yes, this breath in, out. So, whatever practice you lead yourself in, really invite you to enliven the quality of curiosity. If you're settling in the breath, the body, notice where you notice your in breath, your out breath, the points of contact with the body, whatever it is. Do this just as much for working with distractions as working with your anchors. Bringing a non judgmental curiosity to it all. Children often have a very natural sense of awe curiosity, wanting to see into the nature of things. Many of us lose that as we move on in this journey of life. Some of us don't. If you have places in your life, you know what it's like to be really curious and have that sense of enlivenment from it. Let yourself remember that capacity. Open up to it here with this sitting, meditation. Settled mind, distracted mind makes no difference. Be curious about it all. If you're feeling a little rusty at curiosity, what's it like to feel curious about not knowing what curiosity might feel like? Huh, isn't that an interesting thing? Start wherever you are with this moment. Noticing wherever the mind is right now. Curious about this place of mind. The felt sensation, what it's either caught up in or releasing in. Be curious about the felt sensation of being caught up, the body sensation when you get caught up. Curious about the body sensation when you notice releasing, settling, centering. So, welcome again. Glad that you're here. Really good to sit with others. So, I appreciate this time of sitting with you. Before I give my sharing, it's nice to kind of know who's here if you want to share. So, you might notice the chat box and feel free to write in a greeting or a gratitude there. What I'm noticing is that there's a little bit of a lag between the time you write and the time it shows up for me. But hopefully they'll come up quick enough for me to be able to acknowledge them. And if we've moved on before yours has come up, we'll take some time to just see what everyone has written in the chat box before we sign off tonight. Zachary, greetings, fellow Earthlings. Appreciate that very, very much. So I'll type in one. Oops. Lakshmi and Sharon, nice to see you. Jamal Jordan, glad that you're here. And Trisha, glad that you're here. Grateful for the sharing and sharing this with your husband and daughter as well. Mike, hi Lindsay, Mike's here. So for all of you, really appreciate hearing that. If anyone hasn't typed yet and you want to, feel free. I need to change my chair real quick. So just bear with me for just a moment. Okay. So exploring curiosity. Kind of the relevance of this was brought back to me. There's a group about 15 of us meeting on Sunday nights right now doing the Unwinding Anxiety app together and having a once a week check in. We will be looking for some more online offerings in case that would be something that's helpful for you. But this Unwinding Anxiety app, really beautiful app. And it teaches very practical mindfulness based skills, can make a lovely difference with working with anxiety. So, in this app, it points out, as you've heard many times before, the first step is we have to learn to be able to catch how we're getting hooked, catch the trigger, the routine habit behavior, all those things that we do out of the trigger that in the short run may feel easier in the moment to go down that road, but in the long run, certainly compound the situation, driving us deeper into a sort of anxiety vortex, which is not very useful. So we're really looking to see if we can begin to witness this cycle of the trigger and the behavior and what kind of reward is driving it underneath this. And our best friend for doing this is curiosity. Judson Brewer, who is the lead author on this app, was the director at UMass, now at Brown Center for Mindfulness. He says it this way: inviting curiosity allows us to hack into our brain's natural reward system in a way that actually feels good. Love this observation. Curiosity feels intrinsically good. The more we open to it, the more we experience that enlivenment that is a natural part of curiosity. If you think of the child who is totally engaged with looking at a dandelion, or um, the scientists totally engaged in uncovering, understanding a piece of work, or just like, the mother totally engaged with curiosity around the little toes of her new baby. There is something that just basically naturally feels good around curiosity. The example that he gives is like if you taste something, you eat something at a restaurant and it tastes really good. So you don't just chew it up and move on. You actually might find yourself getting really curious about, so what were the ingredients that went into making this? What did they do that made it so good? And it really brings to life that whole experience, in a certain way. So in these examples, when we're exploring something that's pleasant, it's easy to kind of see that relationship between curiosity and good feeling. But it's really important to notice that that same possibility for a sort of good feeling, helpful feeling exists when we bring curiosity to what our challenges are, to our difficult places. It's a way to break that trance state of the anxiety, and step back into something that, has a possibility of opening up a door of healing and helping us not get swept down that anxiety current or reactivity. So I had an example of this, with a patient, many years ago when I was still practicing as a family practice doctor. Uh, um, I saw in one woman in particularly that I saw for about 3 years, just the tremendous power of curiosity and the way that she, brought about really remarkable change in her life, right through that quality of curiosity. So I was working in a rural healthcare clinic up in the North Carolina mountains, and I had this one young woman. She, when she first saw me, she was very overweight. She had limited income. She with a very poor paying dead end job. The job wasn't ever going to go anywhere, and she lived with an abusive, unemployed boyfriend. The one thing she did have that was key in how she changed her life was this remarkable determination coupled with a very unusual curiosity. I hadn't really met anyone do it in the way that she had, back then. But her curiosity was to understand for her own self why things were so hard for her. And she was doing that in this way that was never judgmental. It was really an honest wanting to know and to get how she ended up in such a trapped feeling life. What this evolved with time was a, beautiful self-respect and a sort of bit by bit getting that she was doing the best she could with each step, and that each step just took time. So when she first came to me, she was very lost, very depressed, lots and lots of crying. I remember that first visit very vividly, and totally confused and befuddled by what was happening to her, why it was like this. In one of our very first meetings, I don't remember how many times we had met. She actually shared with me that she'd had an experience of sexual abuse growing up, and she had never shared that with anyone. So I got her in with one of the therapists in our clinic, and by her request, I started her on a mild antidepressant. She quickly stopped seeing the therapist. She quickly stopped the depressant, but she kept coming to see me, and she would come really often, like every week. Um, um, uh, I saw her over 3 years, and for a long time, it was every week, then every other. Uh, she was very clear that just coming in helped. So we did it. Once in a blue moon, I'd give her a new suggestion, like maybe you really should see one of our therapists, or what about exercise, or here's a nutritionist possibility. Sometimes she would try some of these things. Never went back to a therapist, um, but basically, this was before I had much useful understanding of mindfulness. And I often felt really lost when I was seeing her as to what I had to offer her. Felt like I needed to do something for her and wasn't sure what I had that I could do. So, what she taught me instead was how to just listen, how to be present with her as she shared her story, which with her was easy to do, and stand back in just wonder and awe as bit by bit, she determinedly changed her life. And she absolutely directed this change. I supported her in this process of listening, giving her a place to feel heard, but her impetus and movement were really internally directed by the way she approached her pain, which was a huge lesson for me of this possibility of approaching our pain: curiosity, patience, determination, and tenderness. She So by the time I left the clinic, it was about 3 years I was there. 3 years, saw her. She was one of my first patients there. By the time I left, she had long left her boyfriend, lost a significant amount of weight. She was back at school at a community college and already had a new job in her new chosen field. And she was only seeing me maybe once every other month, by that time. So when I think back as to what she did that allowed that level of change, more than most any other patient I ever had, um, w- that curiosity really stands out. She had a way of asking really good questions to herself without judging them. Um, for example, with her boyfriend, when they were still together, she was very clear, he was abusive. She would tell me the things that he would do and that he would say, and she absolutely got that it was toxic to be with him. So she wondered, "Why do I stay with him?" And I get that this is so bad. What is it that drives me? What is the reward? In essence, she didn't use that language, but that's exactly what it was. What is it that I am getting that's keeping me in this trapped place? There was a real deep element of self care in the way she asked herself the questions that mattered. And she finally got it. She got that she stayed with him because she was lonely and she was so scared to let him go and really face that loneliness. There was this long time when I kept expecting, he's gonna be gone, he's gonna be gone, you get it now. Can't you just give him the boot, get him out? But no, there was like this long time where she really allowed herself to feel what she was getting from him and what other possibilities were. Really allowing herself to compassionately be with how scary it was to let him go. And then finally, one day she came in and he was gone. It was just suddenly very simple because she knew what she had to do. Ultimately, I think she had this respect for how hard the changes she wanted to make were. And because she respected how hard the changes would be, she never got stuck in how hard the changes were. She understood, she just kind of inherently understood this process was going to take time. So she really developed a way of being with herself that was fiercely determined and soft and loving. She became a sort of protective guardian for herself and a protective guardian for her own sense of confusion. She gave room for her own sense of confusion to take the time that it needed to sort out. When I share this, I worry that it sounds kind of like too neat, and it really wasn't. It was very messy. But there was this just willingness to keep at it, however it was. And so, in addition to the curiosity, that determination and tenderness were also really important for this. I think sometimes we're much more comfortable with the idea I have to be determined to do this, but we're not as comfortable or comprehending of the tenderness and that side of letting this determination be to protect ourselves as an act of care. I often hear people say they don't really know what it means to offer kindness to themselves. They have no idea to go with where to go with a sort of hazy concept of self kindness. So we make this simple. We just come up with a phrase and whatever words work for us. So maybe something like, I really care that this hurts. So I am determined to do my best to be with this in a way that opens up healing. Whatever the words are, we allow ourselves to offer wise words to ourselves and then walk ourselves into understanding the meaning of them. It's already in here. This is about trusting that natural resourcefulness, that natural capacity for kindness to begin to emerge. The last thing I want to say about this one woman, at the time, I really didn't think I had much to do with her change. Mostly I just sat back in awe and witness. She came in, she would tell me what she needed to tell me for that visit, and then she would go and she'd come back a week, 2 weeks later. In retrospect, I realized I actually did a lot. My sense of awe and wonder at her drive and capacity to make these changes happen bit by bit by bit. That was like offering an external mindfulness. I was providing a safe container where she could simply connect to her own process. I listened to many patients, but I didn't have many that made the kinds of changes she did. So the safe container that I provided was the most useful when it was matched with that remarkable inner determination, curiosity, and tenderness. These are skills we can offer ourselves. They are available within us anytime, any situation, any challenge, any difficulty. We need the support of others. Having someone else to hold that safe container is sometimes really useful, very fundamentally needed. When we need someone else, we need to know how to reach out for someone else. We also need to learn that that safe container is within ourselves and that we can develop that capacity here. And we usually, if our challenges are deep, we learn that capacity through the support of others, not by doing this work by ourselves. So this is the heart of mindfulness practice, is learning to be a resource of safety for our own selves as we meet our challenges in a way that makes a difference. Learning these skills not only opens the door to our healing, they feel good. So I want to go all the way back to Judson Brewer, pointing out that it feels better to connect with ourselves with curiosity than it does to get caught up in a whirlwind of contraction. So, I want to close with offering a few questions for you to consider in your own situation. If you just pause for a moment and think about today, what kind of triggers did you meet today that lead to unhealthy reactions for you? What kind of habit reactivity do you have that takes you down that anxiety rabbit hole, or anger rabbit hole, or depressed rabbit hole, or whatever rabbit hole it might be? Um, um, really kind of pause and let yourself consider what you experienced today with habits, with triggers, with reactivity, in whatever way that may have looked like. And then what would it be like to intentionally explore creating a safe container for your own self? For your own self to be deeply curious about a wonderment of what's actually happening here? What's driving this for me? Can I look at that without judgment, without berating myself, with really a curiosity and determined tenderness for this being human? So, what kind of patience and determination are needed in this journey for you? And I thought I would share to close one of my favorite poems from Mary Oliver called The Journey. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began. Though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles, mend my life, each voice cried. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. Though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible, it was already late enough and a wild night. And the road was full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. So let's sit together for just a few breaths. To all of us at Charlotte Center for Mindfulness, we hope these offerings are useful for you. They are freely offered. And if you would like to give a donation to help support us as we keep ourselves available online, we deeply appreciate that. If you go to our website, there's a donate page on the website or some donate buttons. And we appreciate any support that you would like to share. We also want to name that we're sending out compassion and good wishes to everyone in these really hard times. So if finances are tough, we feel like your participation and your presence is helping us, is you being an active part of our mission of sharing mindfulness as a healing resource. So we are grateful that you are here and joining in this work with us in whatever way that is best for you. I am going to put in the chat right now the link for the Zoom meeting. I have been told by several people that sometimes that doesn't work so well from the chat room. So I've already put it also in the description box for this particular YouTube. So if you can't get it out of the chat room, no worries. It is in the description box below the stream if you look there. And so after we close, if you want to come over to the Zoom room and join for some practice discussion, would love to have you. And we're going to sit together for a couple of minutes to close. This time of deep upheaval and a lot of uncertainty for many. We pause in this moment to send compassion, care for ourselves and all of us everywhere. May we be safe. May we be happy. May we be peaceful and calm and know how to care for ourselves and each other with joy and ease. May we learn to tap into these resources that are within us, that strengthen us in a deeper wisdom and kindness in meeting this life as it is. Thank you, and hope to see some of you in just a moment in the Zoom room.